Hey, it's me again, and today I'm going to walk through the Nord Stage 4 88-key digital piano not as a hype reel, but as the kind of deep dive you need before you decide whether to spend a big chunk of cash on a stage-ready instrument. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The thing about buying a professional-grade keyboard is that the stakes feel high. You're weighing a big investment against the promise of authentic feel, versatile sounds, and the ability to actually use it night after night on gigs or in a home studio. If you've ever felt the hesitation of, will this replace my acoustic? Will I actually use the layers I pay for? You're not alone, and that's exactly what I'm trying to untangle here. First, let's talk about the core experience that most buyers care about, the feel of the keys. Nord has a reputation for weighted actions that mimic a piano's hammer mechanism, and the Stage 4 continues that tradition across the full 88-key range. In practice, that means when you press the low A you get that deep, responsive drop you'd expect from a concert grand, and when you move up toward the higher C the action subtly lightens, preserving the natural gradation you're used to from an acoustic. For a pianist who spends hours on scales, or who needs to transition seamlessly between classical repertoire and synth patches, this consistency reduces the mental load of readjusting finger pressure. That said, the weighted action does add a noticeable amount of weight to the instrument itself. If you're planning to move the Stage 4 between venues regularly, you'll find the built-in leg design and the overall mass a bit of a logistical consideration. Most owners end up investing in a sturdy rolling cart or a dedicated gig case, which is an extra expense you should budget for. Now, beyond the feel, the real differentiator for the Stage 4 is its sound layering capability. You can stack piano, organ, and synth layers on the fly, and the interface lets you mute or solo each part with a single button press. In a live setting, I've seen musicians use this to keep a lush pad underneath a bright piano lead, then switch to a gritty organ for a solo without having to pause the performance. The layering engine is fast enough that there's no audible latency, which is crucial when you're improvising or playing fast passages. For studio work, that flexibility translates into fewer tracks to bounce down later. You can record a single performance that already contains the depth you'd normally need multiple overdubs for. The downside is that the onboard library, while extensive, leans heavily toward Nord's signature sounds. If you're hunting for ultra-realistic orchestral patches, or want a massive bank of third-party sample libraries, you'll quickly discover that you'll need to rely on external VSTs, or a separate sound module. The Stage 4 isn't a replacement for a full DAW workstation, but it isn't meant to be one either. It's a hybrid that shines when you need high-quality piano, organ, and synth tones in one package. Let's talk about the Reeditto Play bundle that comes with the Stage 4. Out of the box you get a sturdy stand, a sustain pedal, and a power supply, which is a nice touch compared to some competitors that ship with a bare keyboard and expect you to source accessories separately. When you plug it in and hit the first patch, you're greeted by a clean, well-balanced piano tone that holds up surprisingly well against an acoustic in a small room. The organ patches sound full, and the synth section offers enough depth for most gigging keyboardists. In my own testing, I tried a typical jazz gig scenario, a rhythm section of drums and bass, a saxophonist, and the Stage 4 handling both camping piano and a warm, drawbar organ for a solo section. The transitions were seamless, and the audience didn't notice any drop in tonal quality when I flipped between sounds. That practical, unstage flexibility is where the value really starts to show up, especially when you compare the cost of buying separate keyboards for each sound source. Who should consider buying the Nord Stage 4? If you're a gigging professional who needs a single instrument that can convincingly cover piano, organ, and synth roles without juggling multiple pieces of gear, this is a very compelling option. It also makes sense for serious home studio musicians who want a reliable, performance-grade keyboard that won't feel cheap when they record. Teachers who want to demonstrate different textures in real time might appreciate the quick swap functionality, too. On the flip side, if you're a beginner or someone who's mostly interested in classical piano repertoire, the high price point and the added complexity of layers might be overkill. A dedicated acoustic, or a more affordable digital piano, with a solid piano sound engine could serve you better without the extra weight and learning curve. Likewise, if you're primarily a producer who spends most of your time inside a DAW and relies on software instruments, the Stage 4's onboard library may feel limiting, and you'd likely get more bang for